Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 28th, and well, we rebounded nicely right off that. This is the beauty of that, seeing that steel reset. It's always nice, and then we had the turnaround of steel rising, beginning of the fading of shorts here with the cyan, and then of course orange falling. You know, the orange peaked out, and then once it broke below the negative 13.5, you can see the direct correlation right there. Boom, starts to come up, and our expectation you would look for would be the continuation. Steel dipping above, well, steel rising above the orange continuing to move below red, and green, which has already started to pop up, crossing above. And we start with a new uptick for the checkout histogram, which we already see. And that's just a beautiful straight line up for the gold, which if we were coloring these with the gold using the GAM function, they would show up as opposed to the paint bar 2. Clearly still NASDAQ underperforming slightly. Nothing more to add. This is almost identical, except it's a lot softer. You can see we got the flatten out of the orange. So this could pose some difficulties for, you know, a significant burst higher. This is going to cause a little bit of a drag on the S&P. So if the euro can break into a new range, which still looks pretty decent. I don't know if it's going to quite get there, but definitely the higher it goes towards 114, anywhere near our upper line here in the mid 115 range, that would definitely cause us to be over 3,000 on the S&P. So we'll look for that. Oil holding, you know, this is just that fear anticipation. The problem is that you're not going to see inventory drawdowns or anything like that, and certainly with the shale capability, I think that's going to keep this modest at best. Not like the old days. I mean, we would have seen a huge spike if you had these kind of tensions in the Strait of Hormuz in the past. Would have just really put a huge damper on the market. But the shale industry in the U.S. just changes the dynamic completely. And gold, having retraced just fractionally on some of it's just a ton of positive extremes there. We had the little weakness here. As long as below the 13.5, when it starts to come back above, we should see a pop back from there. For now, supporting beautifully on the ABM. I might expect to see it touch that again or even break below it slightly. We'll see if it's able to do that. From an intraday standpoint, we had some cool stuff take place. So we started off with that huge pump. We ended up with the first DOC spread right there, which is an interesting one because you have it with the steel underneath red. Not so effective. And then look at the immediate difference. I should mark that while we're here. Let's just do that. And one more would be this one, which is big difference because steel came above and then crossed back below. And you can see the effects are dramatic. And that makes a huge difference because then we came up, you got a positive signal that then turned into a negative one, but the return back here with the green crossover and the beginning of a new shakeout back to the positive, even if you didn't like it here, as soon as you got to the 50% line, you know, you were good to go. And then, of course, this is the one I love, lower, DOC red, boom, turns around, breaks down. You know this one's going to have a little bit more to it. So the key that you're looking for is, are you going to have the reset of the steel, which already had begun, and it crossed red almost immediately, and then boom, little pop. But this is what became interesting because when you get into this kind of situation, you can sort of follow the steel pretty accurately when it hasn't, because I consider it negated once it crosses back below the cyan at that particular point. So you're in a fresh mode. And I kind of marked this one because I wanted to show it, because what happens here is you get the bullish tint right here with the steel coming up, but you don't have orange coming below green, and you haven't got a crossover on green above red. So again, you get a clean turnaround there where the short is breaking back down, and that's what leads to the bottom move. But what's interesting about it is you get the bullish crossover here again, and then you get what I always call the orange in continuation mode. So it's in continuation mode all the way through here. You already have green crossover at this particular point, but you don't have the orange dip. But as soon as you do have the orange dip, boom. Now, typically though, we know that in this particular scenario, you're not expecting this to have legs, or at least be an extended run. In this case, all it does is come back up to the highs, and that's literally what I would expect. It actually made slightly higher move than the previous one. Not by a whole lot. I mean, this we're talking not even points. It was just tiny. And that's where you can look at that particular point for the first. But now, what's interesting about it is when you get across here, we did dip below the red. This had the potential then of continuing its breakout. It didn't do it in this particular case because it immediately created the pushback up, and it created the DOC spread right there. But that's a warning sign. And so you're able to see that develop going through there. So yes, we were expecting a bullish move. It's just a matter of you're expecting that bullish move to end right there when you get the steel coming back below it. And in this particular case, didn't really do anything. Kind of just went across for a little bit, and then you ended up with the dip below, and that literally could have presented a whole new run to the upside. So just adds to the knowledge base that you have going into those kind of setups where you don't have a steel reset. In this particular case, coming off that DOC spread, it didn't take long for that to cross over, meaning you were pretty much done with that setup, and then it was just a matter of waiting for any bullish configurations. In this case, you already had the steel, the orange dip below the red with the crossover, so that was in the bullish. Created a little bit of a spider there, but with the orange continuing to stay low, ended up with cyan under red even before the close out, and then that's why we're here where we're at, which is plus in the pre-market and up at the highs. We're seeing a version of a DOC spread that's not going to be very effective again because you can see that the steel is coming from below. So this is likely just a retest to the ABM yellow, fill in a little bit, and then keep its return move going back up. So always good to look at those scenarios, and it's great that something like this would show up just after we were talking about extended runs of the steel without a reset, and why we knew the other previous time when this was taking place it wasn't going to turn around at all. And in this particular case, you could have expected exactly the same thing, except for the bullish spider that took place right there, and then the steel dipping below the red, kind of negating that. So this gives you just clear understanding of the relationship function and how they're all tied together. And you have to, people will say to me, well, I only want to follow one or two lines. You can't really look at it from that context because the dynamic shifts and who's in control adjusts on a regular basis. The markets are dynamic. There's no fixed nature to it. When the algos get going, they're still competing. They just have to be successful in overwhelming the other positions. So that's the current state of things, and as always,